Congratulations! You just graduated as a chemical engineer from the University of Guadalajara. Your mom cries at the ceremony. She invested 20 years of tortilla shops to pay for your degree. You get a job at a pharmaceutical company, 18,000 pesos monthly. You produce aspirin and cough syrups. It's boring, but honest. You have a future. Until your cousin Ruben knocks on your door one Saturday. I need you to help me with something, he says. He's driving a new truck he shouldn't be able to afford on his mechanic's salary. It's basic chemistry. I'll pay you $50,000 for one weekend. You tell him no, that you're fine, he insists. It's just once, to get out of debt. You know he's lying. You both know it. But the $50,000 is real. Your rental apartment, your student loans, the possibility of finally taking that girl to dinner without calculating the cost of each dish. You accept. The lab is a ranch 2 hours from the city. No signs, nothing to indicate what happens there. Just a dirt road that seems to lead nowhere. When you arrive, there are 5 armed men. None of them smile. They search you from head to toe. One of them, El Químico, guides you inside. The smell hits you first. Acetone, ephedrine, ether. You know these chemicals. You studied them in your second semester. You never imagined you'd smell them all together in a makeshift kitchen. We need methamphetamine, says El Químico. Pure, crystalline, no impurities. He shows you their current operation. It's a disaster. Equipment stolen from hospitals. Camping stoves as heat sources. Plastic containers where they should be using borosilicate glass. Their product is yellowish, full of residue. Our previous cook had an accident, he adds. He doesn't ask if you know how to do it. He assumes you do. You have a degree. That's enough for them. It's also enough to make you an accomplice. Your first batch is technically perfect. You use the pseudoephedrine reduction method. You control the temperature with precision. You neutralize the pH correctly. The final product is translucent, crystalline, with 96% purity. El Químico tests it with a reagent kit. He smiles for the first time. This is what we needed. He pays you in cash. 50,000 peso bills that smell of humidity and fear. Same place, next weekend. You go back. Of course you go back. Not because you want to, but because 50,000 pesos for 2 days of work is more than you earn in 3 months at the pharmaceutical company. You tell yourself it's temporary, just until you pay off your debts, just until you save a financial cushion, just until... The excuses are endless when the price is right. The second batch is bigger, not 500 grams, 2 kilos. They give you better equipment. Real Erlenmeyer flasks, heating plates with temperature control, reflux condensers. Someone stole this from a university lab. You wonder if it was from yours. You produce 4 kilos that week. Your payment increases to 200,000 pesos. You no longer work weekends. Now you work all week. You quit the pharmaceutical company with the excuse of an independent consulting project. You become an expert in applied organic synthesis, not just methamphetamine, fentanyl too. It's more complex. It requires precursors that come from China in shipments labeled as industrial fertilizer. Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin. 1 mismeasured gram can kill 500 people. You produce it with the same precision you once used to produce vitamins. The irony isn't lost on you. You used to save lives with chemistry. Now you destroy them. But fentanyl pays better, much better. Your lab evolves. It's no longer a makeshift ranch. Now it's an industrial warehouse with a chili packing plant facade. You have 3 assistants, chemistry students who think they're working in a private research lab. You don't tell them what they're really producing. They just follow your instructions. Measure, mix, distill. They never see the final product. That's your specialty. You're the only one who completes the process. You learn about economies of scale. The cartel asks you for 50 kilos weekly. You can't produce that in one place. You design a modular system, 5 small labs instead of 1 big one. If the police discover one, you lose only 20% of production. It's risk engineering applied to crime. Your university professors would be proud of your efficiency, horrified by your application. Probably both. You discover that your real talent isn't cooking. It's innovating. The market is saturated with methamphetamine. They need something new. You research synthetic cathinones, bath salts, flocka. They're legal in most countries because they're so new that laws don't cover them yet. You produce the first experimental batch. It's cheaper to make than methamphetamine, more addictive, more destructive, also more profitable. The cartel is delighted. Yeah, you are promoted. You're no longer the cook. You're the director of chemistry. It sounds absurd, but it's your official title. You have 15 labs under your supervision, 40 people working for you, a salary of 500,000 pesos monthly. You live in a house in Zapopan that has more bathrooms than your family home had rooms. You drive a Mercedes that you check for explosives every morning. You have bodyguards who follow you everywhere, not to protect you from the government, to make sure you don't flee. Your work gets complicated with logistics. Chemical precursors are increasingly regulated. Ephedrine can no longer be bought freely. You have to extract it from cold medications. You buy 10,000 boxes of decongestant pills in pharmacies throughout Mexico using frontmen. Each box has 200 pills. Each pill has 30 milligrams of pseudoephedrine. You do the calculations constantly. That's 60 kilos of precursor, enough for 40 kilos of final product. The street price is 800 pesos per gram. That's 32 million pesos from a $2 million medication purchase. The mathematics of hell always add up perfectly. You learn organic chemistry that isn't taught in any university. How to convert NPP to fentanyl without access to controlled reagents. How to synthesize MDMA using saffrole extracted from sassafras oil. How to purify base cocaine using potassium permanganate and acetone. You're a PhD of the underworld. Your education continues in clandestine dens instead of classrooms. Your papers are recipes worth millions. Your colleagues are criminals who would kill you if you made a mistake. The government improves its detection techniques. Before they only looked for chemical smells. Now they use satellites that detect thermal signatures. Your lab generates heat, a lot of heat. Exothermic reactions are inevitable. You have to be smarter. You build underground labs, ventilation systems that disperse heat, solar panels that justify abnormal electrical consumption. You're like an aerospace engineer, but designing facilities to evade satellite detection instead of reaching orbit. You experiment with new synthetic drugs every month. The cartel gives you creative freedom. They want the next big thing, the next product to dominate the market. You synthesize ketamine analogs, synthetic opioids that don't show up on standard drug tests, modified benzodiazepines that are 100 times more potent than clonazepam. Each new molecule is a chemical success. It's also a collective death sentence for people you'll never meet. All your paranoia becomes methodical. You know that previous labs were discovered because someone talked, or because they left evidence, or because they bought chemicals suspiciously. You implement military protocols, total compartmentalization. No one knows more than one part of the process. Those who buy precursors don't know where the lab is. Those who cook don't know who distributes. Those who distribute don't know who cooks. Only you see the complete picture. That makes you indispensable. It also makes you the most valuable target. You have accidents. It's inevitable when you work with volatile chemicals on a large scale. A fentanyl batch overheats. The explosion kills 2 of your assistants. Another lab has a phosgene gas leak. 3 people hospitalized with permanent lung damage. You can't take them to real hospitals. The cartel has its own doctors who lost their licenses or never had them. They do what they can. One of your assistants dies from pulmonary edema a week later. They bury him at the same ranch, no funeral, no tombstone, just a hole in the ground and quicklime. You start taking your own precautions. You wear a full hazmat suit when you cook. Personal gas detector that you monitor obsessively. Decontamination showers after each session. You check your blood heavy metal levels every month with doctors in Houston who don't ask what you do. Your chronic exposure to toxic vapors is inevitable. You already have mild liver damage. Your kidneys show signs of stress. You're 32 years old with the health of someone 55. But you're still alive, which is more than your previous assistants can say. The cartel expands internationally. Now they ask you to establish operations in Colombia, in Guatemala, in Honduras. You travel in private jets with fake documents. In each country, you repeat the process. Find location, get equipment, recruit local chemists, train them in techniques you perfected in Mexico. You're a traveling professor of destruction. Each lab you establish will fuel thousands of addictions. Each batch you produce will send dozens to the hospital. Some will die. You know it. It doesn't affect you anymore. You've compartmentalized yourself emotionally the same way you compartmentalize your operations. You meet El Patron once. It's at a ranch in Michoacan. You arrive escorted with a blindfold on. When they remove the blindfold, you're in a lab you built 6 months ago. He's there with 3 chemists. "Show me how you do it," he says. It's not a request. Well, it's an order. You produce a kilo of methamphetamine in 4 hours while he watches. He asks intelligent questions. He understands more chemistry than you expected. At the end, he tests the product with a portable spectrometer. 98.2% purity, he says. You're an artist. He pays you 1 million pesos in cash that night. He also tells you something you don't forget. You're the most important one. Sicarios die. Distributors get arrested. But you, without you, there's no product, no business. Take very good care of yourself. It's simultaneously the greatest professional validation and the most terrifying threat you've received. Your social life is non-existent. You had a girlfriend, a nurse, innocent. It ended when she asked why you always smelled like chemicals, why you had burns on your hands, why your bodyguards never left you alone. You couldn't explain that you spend 60 hours weekly cooking the poisons she sees killing her patients in the ER. You let her go. Now you only have empty encounters with women who understand there are questions you don't ask. Your family thinks you work in private pharmaceutical research. Your mom brags that her son develops medications for international companies. Technically, she's not lying. You produce compounds that alter brain chemistry. Only instead of curing, they destroy. Instead of hospitals, they go to streets. Instead of saving lives, they ruin them. Your dad died without knowing. Your sister suspects, but never asks. The money you send them every month buys their complicit silence. The competition is brutal. There are other cooks. Some are better than you in specific aspects. One produces fentanyl with 99.4% purity. Another achieves methamphetamine with larger and more attractive crystals. But you have something they don't: consistency and volume. You produce 200 kilos monthly with constant quality. You never miss a delivery. You never blow up a lab through negligence. You're the Toyota of criminal cooks, reliable, efficient, boring, but unstoppable. You start innovating in molecular distribution. Traditional fentanyl is too dangerous to transport. A single mishandled kilo can kill your entire team. You develop analogs that are legal in most countries until authorities catch up. Carfentanil for tranquilizing elephants. Sufentanil used in cardiac surgeries. Remifentanil for fast-acting anesthesia. Technically, they're veterinary medications or hospital anesthetics with legitimate uses. But on the street, cut and distributed by unscrupulous dealers, they work just like fentanyl. Better, even, because they're more potent and cheaper to synthesize. And you can send them through normal shipping, labeled as veterinary supplies or lab reagents. The DEA doesn't know what to look for because you change the molecule every 3 months. You modify a functional group here, add a radical there. Each variation is technically a new substance that doesn't appear on control lists. You're always 3 chemical steps ahead of regulations. By the time they ban your current molecule, you're already producing the next generation. You discover the research chemicals market, the dark internet of synthetic drugs. Synthetic cathinones that are legal because they're so new, they don't appear on any international controlled substances list. You sell them online using the facade of a chemical reagent supplier, labeled as not suitable for human consumption, research only. Technically legal in 47 countries, practically devastating for those who consume them. You produce 4-MMC, mephedrone that mimics MDMA but is more neurotoxic. Alpha PVP that they call flakka on the streets, which causes violent psychosis. MDPV that generates instant addiction. Each one is more addictive than the last. Each one generates more money with less legal risk. The cartel is fascinated with this business model. Crime that isn't technically crime until legislators catch up. By then, you've already moved on to the next molecule, the next chemical variation that exploits legal loopholes. You establish university-level organic synthesis labs. You have gas chromatographs for analysis, mass spectrometers to verify molecular structures, stainless steel reactors with computerized temperature control. Your facility is more advanced than many legitimate pharmaceutical labs in Mexico. The irony is brutal. You use first-rate equipment to produce first-rate death. Your products have falsified certificates of analysis that appear to come from Swiss chemical companies. You include purity data, fake NMR spectra, everything perfectly forged. Your clients in Europe and Asia think they're buying from a legitimate supplier until the arrests start. Your knowledge becomes your maximum security prison. You know too much. You know every lab in 3 states, every chemist working for the organization, every precursor route from China and India. You're the living institutional memory of the cartel. All that makes you invaluable as an operational asset. It also makes you eliminable the precise moment that knowledge becomes a security risk or testimonial evidence. You sleep with 3 loaded guns in your house, 1 under the pillow, another in the bathroom, a 3rd in the closet. You have escape routes planned from every location you frequent. From your house, there are 4 different exits you've practiced in the dark. From your main lab, you have an underground tunnel that no one else knows about. You maintain $500,000 in cash divided into 3 locations, 3 fake passports with complete identities, credit histories, driver's licenses, everything. Forge your contacts in Thailand and Brazil, and offshore account numbers in tax havens without extradition treaties. Your life is a survival equation. You recalculate daily based on government movements, internal cartel tensions, and your own level of paranoia that never decreases. You try to leave, just once. You gather enough courage after 3 whiskeys and tell El Patron in person that you want to retire, that you've saved enough for 3 lifetimes, that you want to go to Spain, maybe open a small legitimate business, a restaurant, or an industrial chemistry consultancy, disappear into European anonymity. He listens to you with almost paternal patience. Then he smiles that smile you've learned to fear more than explicit threats. Of course you can retire, he says kindly. Absolutely. We just need you to train your replacement first. Teach him everything you know, every synthesis, every supplier, every technique, every contact. The trap is so obvious it hurts. The day you transfer all your knowledge is the exact day you stop being necessary to the organization. It's the day you become a walking witness who must be permanently silenced. You never mention retirement in any conversation again. You accept internally that this is permanent, a life sentence that only ends in 2 ways. Either until the federal police find you and you face 40 years in American prison, or until the cartel decides you're an unacceptable risk and your body appears dissolved in acid. Whichever comes first will be your only exit. Technology catches up to you relentlessly. The DEA now has portable Raman spectrometers that identify drugs instantly without even opening packages. Mexican police receive intensive CIA training in detecting clandestine labs using chemical analysis of air and water. Commercial satellites improve their resolution every 6 months. International databases connect in real time between 60 countries. It's increasingly difficult to operate without leaving digital or physical traces. You have to move constantly like an industrial nomad. A lab lasts maximum 6 months before you abandon it out of extreme precaution, even without concrete evidence of surveillance. You lose millions of pesos in sophisticated equipment you leave behind like expensive trash. Distillers, reactors, filtration systems, computers with encrypted data that you physically destroy. But equipment is replaceable with money. You are not. Your brain, your knowledge, your experience. That's the only truly irreplaceable thing in this operation. You see exactly what happens to cooks who fail or betray. One produced a contaminated batch with incorrect precursors that killed 15 people in Texas in a single weekend. American clients demanded full refund. The cartel demanded explanations and heads. They found him in anatomical pieces in 5 different states, each part sent to a strategic location as a territorial warning. Another chemist sold secret formulas to the competition for $2 million. He thought the money and an escape plan would save him. They dissolved him in acid slowly, literally, like in Hollywood movies, but absolutely real, documented on video for internal educational purposes, horrible beyond words, and brutally effective as a message. You learn quickly that perfection in this job isn't aspirational or desirable. It's mandatory and non-negotiable. A mistake isn't simply a professional error you correct. It's involuntary suicide with a 48-hour execution delay. You attend strategic planning meetings where multi-million-dollar operations are designed. We need 100 kilos of premium crystal for the Chicago route by the end of the month, says the distribution chief. Everyone at the table looks at you expecting your technical analysis. You do the calculations mentally in 30 seconds, processing multiple variables, necessary precursors, and their currently available sources. Production time, considering synthesis, purification, and drying. Detection risk based on recent police activity. Required personnel and their current reliability. Material costs versus projected profit. You present your analysis as if you were a corporate consultant at a legitimate firm. Feasible in 3 weeks if we start immediately. We require $2 million in precursors I can get from 2 different suppliers. Probability of success without interception, 87%. Projected profitability, 600%. You've become a living human calculator of criminal probabilities, illegal risk optimization, and blood-stained profit projections. The money you generate is obscenely disproportionate. Your 200 monthly kilos of methamphetamine plus 40 kilos of fentanyl generate approximately 160 million pesos monthly for the cartel after all costs. Your salary is barely 0.3% of that. It seems insignificant percentage-wise until you do the absolute math. It's 500,000 pesos monthly deposited in accounts you control indirectly. 6 million pesos annually. More than 99% of Mexican professionals earn legitimately in their entire lives. More than many public company CEOs earn with bonuses included. But you don't enjoy it. You can't. Every peso is stained with traceable suffering. Every large purchase is potential evidence in your eventual trial. You live austerely out of paranoid necessity. Your wealth exists only as numbers on screens of offshore accounts in Panama and the Caymans that you may never be able to touch without triggering international alerts. You develop severe psychological conditions you can't treat professionally. Chronic anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m. with tachycardia. Severe insomnia that leaves you conscious 20 hours daily. Clinical paranoia that's probably justified by real threats. You can't see a psychiatrist because explaining your true situation is direct criminal confession. Self-medicating with your own products is ironic, dangerous, and potentially fatal. You produce the exact substances that numb emotional and chemical pain, but you can't use them without becoming a vulnerable addict. You drink alcohol instead as an inferior substitute. Whiskey to try to sleep 3 hours, vodka to function during the day. It's not a real solution. It's temporary maintenance of minimum functionality. This is what you are now, a brilliant scientist trapped in a hell he synthesized himself molecule by molecule, creating perfectly pure poisons he'll never consume, serving violent men who need him too much to kill him today, but trust him too little to free him tomorrow. Your lab is simultaneously your kingdom and your prison. Your chemical reactions are your invisible bars. And your sentence is perpetual, measured not in calendar years, but in kilos produced, in lives destroyed at a distance, in perfect crystals that shine like diamonds but cut like poisoned glass everything they touch.